Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today, my guest is Joey Muré, and he is a co-founder and partner at Wealth Without Wall Street, where he helps families and business owners break free of the traditional work, save, hope model and replace it with cash flowing, value aligned passive income. Welcome, Joey.
Gary, thanks for having me, man. Looking forward to it.
So, Joey, give us your background. Kind of where'd you go to school? Kind of what got you into the finance side of things?
Well, I feel like Rich Dad, Poor Dad was written because of me. I know it wasn't because I'm not Robert Kiyosaki, but I lived that same process, right? Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a degree, get a good job, and then kind of grow up the corporate ladder. I happened to be in the mortgage business for 11 years. And during that time, my active income, my actual income rose dramatically in a short time. I'm sitting there in my late 20s making over $300,000 a year. And I thought, this is crazy. Like, this is much more than I would have expected at this age. But I'm not actually feeling any further ahead financially, right? I might be able to buy some nicer things or, go on some more vacations or something, but there wasn't really like what I would have anticipated financial freedom would look like. And the reason, and I could share some stories that like helped me kind of wake up to this, was I was the only asset at work in my family. My money wasn't actually working for me. And so it wasn't creating less and less need for my active work. It was creating more and more need, which actually took me away from my family, who I said I was working for all those extra 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And in reality, I was going further and further away from the people that I loved. Something had to change. And man, that was in 2009. I got introduced to a book that changed my whole mindset and started me on this path to where now, fast forward, Russ and I, my co-host on the podcast and co-founder of Wealth Without Wall Street, we provide a passive income report every single month that we're now sitting at over 50,000 a month in passive income. So there's a lot of details in between, but that's kind of the long and short of it.
Sure. So, I mean, many business owners, high net worth W-2 earners and stuff are probably feeling the same thing that you're talking about, that we started doing what we're doing because of the fact that, hey, I want to make sure I can provide for my family. I want to make sure that I'm there, so forth. But then we become a slave to the job, because if we don't keep going, then it's not going to provide the income. Tell us how you guys are helping people transition from that to, what you have them doing.
Well, I'm gonna actually put it back to you as a question and just see if you're like everybody else that I talk to.
Yeah,
How many people do you know that have ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
a lot.
I mean, almost every day I talk to somebody,
Yeah,
they said they've read it, right? How many of those people do you know who are actually financially free?
maybe 1% of the people.
It's a low percentage,
Yeah.
right? So what's the missing link? It's not knowledge, right? I read the book when I was like 20 and I didn't implement it until I was in my 30s. So information and knowledge is not the key. It's actually having a system and becoming an investor. Okay, so that's where we come in. Is we have the actual system that people can follow that will help you to implement this idea of financial freedom of becoming where your passive income exceeds your monthly expenses, which is when you own your calendar.
Mhm.
Until that point, everybody else owns your calendar, right? And you know what I'm talking about. Like as Gary and I are sitting here talking, you're thinking, I'm not financially free. Someone else put all these things on my calendar for me, right? I'm either a slave to their time that I have to trade for their money, my time for their money, or my business owns me because I've gotten out of control and it's all dependent on me or it falls apart. Either one of those things doesn't create freedom, but the system is the key component and then becoming an investor. Because Gary, what I know about entrepreneurs is that we think we can do anything, right? We're optimistic,
Yep.
which is all good. But an investor is not optimistic. An investor is pessimistic. They say this thing's not going to work until it's proven otherwise. And most entrepreneurs think, "Oh man, this thing's gonna. It sounds great. It's gonna blow the doors off. This is gonna be an awesome investment." And what happens? We lose money. It doesn't perform. It locks up our money for long periods of time. So it is a skill to become an investor, and we have an actual 12-week course that we put people through to help them become that. So that's you want to know what we do? We build the system with you and we help you become a better investor. And those two things are what the difference is between the knowledge of becoming financially free and actual action to become it.
Now, in doing this and helping people get through this process, many people are going to say, well, I don't have a large amount of money to invest. So how do you guys work with people when it comes to their budget for investing?
Well, I'll tell you this. This is a little bit of a chicken and the egg, a little bit, right? When it comes to investing and creating freedom. First of all, I would say we have to go back to the very simple formula. What is your passive income and is it greater than your monthly expenses? If you like Wall Street has told us that we need millions and millions and millions of dollars to one day retire, right? You just need to start peeling those dollars out of each paycheck or out of each distribution, put it into this 401k or IRA, and hope that it's going to grow to this big enough mountain. You remember those videos where people were carrying around their number?
Yeah,
The big orange number. It's like, oh, this is my number's 2,633,000. It's all garbage. That's all literally to keep you in the dark as to what you actually need to be financially free. When I say you have passive income that exceeds your monthly expenses, what do I need to know? How much do I spend every month? Right? And you see people's taxes, you see their numbers all day long. Most people don't know that simple
right.
thing, right? Well, I think it's somewhere around 8,000. I don't know, maybe it's really more like 12,
Mhm.
but they're just not realistic about what they do.
Right.
If I know I spend $10,000 a month, then all I have to do is find a way, whether with my capital or with someone else's capital, to create 10,000 a month in passive income. Like, just stop for a second. That is, I want to bring the cookies down to the bottom shelf, as they say. This is simple. This is not complex. Wall Street wants to make your life very complex around finances because then you need them, right? Well, what's your risk assessment? What's your long-term gains that you will need to consider? And what do you like? They want to throw in all these terminology that make you think, man, this is hard. But if I say your passive income exceeds your monthly expenses, you know what that means. Now it's just a matter of figuring out what vehicle is going to get you there,
Right.
right? And so I would say, number one, think about that first. Number two, to answer your question about how much money do they actually need, it's really about what that vehicle that they're going to align with as an investor that will get them there. There are some people that have no time and lots of money. they're going to need to invest in certain things that other people may not want to or can't afford to do. Like they may have certain minimums like $50,000 or $100,000 per investment. But there's other things that you don't have to be an accredited investor and may need a little bit more hands-on or a little bit more like involvement that may be like I'll give you a simple one. I bought a car, a 7 or 8 year old car on like from a dealership for $8,000. I handed it to a friend of mine here locally who manages Turo cars. He puts the car on the Turo platform and rents it on my behalf, so it's completely passive to me. It averages about $500 to $600 per month in net cash flow to me. Can anybody can do that, right? That's not that hard. And how many do I need to buy to get to my 10,000 a month, right? It's just math. So it's hard to say exactly how much money do you need because I don't know one what you're trying to accomplish and two what sort of investor you are. Because most people don't know that they have a specific, unique, God-given investor DNA that really helps them to move fast in the way of financial freedom when they align with it. They just think, well, this one's got a bigger ROI and this one has a lower ROI, so I'm just going to go with it, right? When I say return on investment, that's what I'm saying. People are chasing interest, but they don't really understand the actual investment behind it, and that's where they lose or that's where they get stalled.
Yeah. So, back up a little bit, you said earlier that you started out in the mortgage industry and then you made this pivot to doing this now. What was it that made you, make this pivot? Was it reading the book, that you read that did that to you, or what were some other factors that made you or caused you to make that switch?
Well, Gary, I'll tell you two things. One, I read a book in 2009 that changed the way I thought and how I acted, therefore, with my own finances. And for 4 years, I implemented the strategies from that book and started to see, you ever think about like a tunnel? If you're at one end of the tunnel and you're looking at the other one, you can see like this little light.
Hmm.
And then as you walk towards that light, what happens? It gets bigger and bigger. It's not like it wasn't there, it was there the whole time. But now, because I'm closer to it, because I'm taking action, I now could see, man, this is much more comprehensive than what I gave it credit for when I first began. And I started to get convicted, Gary, because here's the thing, we talk about financial freedom. But man, I'll tell you, spiritual freedom trumps financial freedom every day. Like if I don't have that part of my life in check, that I don't have a proper relationship with Christ, none of this other stuff even matters. But what happened is as I started doing these things, I started to get convicted that I was helping people with the mortgage aspect of their life, which was important, right? It's a big part of people's journey to buy an asset like a home and how what goes into that and how to think about it. But man, when you apply financial freedom, it's a life-changing aspect. And I was like, more people need to know this. Like why don't people know this kind of stuff? And I literally was at a conference, Gary, this is no lie, with my now business partner, and we were hearing all these people talk about how people's lives were being changed with this whole idea. And I literally felt like I had this audible question where I said, why don't people know this? And it was like God said, there's not enough people doing it. There's not enough people teaching. Why don't you teach them? And I literally felt like a thumb in my back. And I don't know about you, but that was one of those moments that was defining for me, that I was like, I'm literally about to walk away from a career over 11 years, making over $300,000 a year. People highly respect me for what I do. And I'm about to just go rogue and do this, thing, start this business from scratch. And it was the right thing to do because, man, looking back now, how many millions of people have I been able to impact with a message that is far reaching, much more far reaching than just their mortgage transaction?
Right. So obviously, we can tell that you're passionate about this.
A li-
No doubt about
You
that.
think so, Gary? Are
Which
you
is,
sure?
yeah, which is great because I think that's something that if you're not passionate about what you do, then you need to find something else to do. So tell us more about you have your passive income operating system. Tell us more about that and how when you have somebody new come in, how does this process start? How, if people want to get involved, how do they get involved? How do they learn more about what you're doing and about this system to feel comfortable?
Well, Gary, I'm going to ask you a question. When you sit down with somebody and you start looking at their taxes and their planning or lack thereof, and you start asking them, what are you really trying to accomplish? What do you really want to have happen? If everything goes well with us working together, what do you really want to have happen? I would imagine, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that people say, man, I want to pay the least amount of taxes and I want to do it legally.
Right.
And I want to make sure that I'm using it to my advantage, not just kind of going along in a default path that somebody said, hey, this is what you're supposed to do, so just do it. Right? They have a goal and you want to align what they're doing to support the goal. It's no different with what we do with the passive income operating system. We say, do you want to become financially free? And they say, yes. I say, how quickly? Yesterday. I don't want to wait. I'm tired of missing my kids' soccer practice because I can't get away from work. I'm tired of missing the vacation or being working on vacation where I'm missing their lives. I'm missing the people in my life. So if we want to, let's just make a goal and say we want to be financially free in 3 years. Okay, well, now that helps me understand where we're headed, the destination.
Hmm.
Now let's do a GPS coordinate and say, where are you at today? This is where you want to go. This is where you're at today. Well, what do I need to know about where they're at today? What are they currently doing with money to help them get to that goal? And what most people are doing, Gary, is probably no different than what you see on the tax returns. They're doing things with money that are actually keeping them farther from financial freedom unknowingly, right? I'll give you one example and you can ask me whatever you want, but this is the number one thing that we see people doing. They say, I want to be financially free today, but they're putting money into a 401k, right? A retirement account. And they say, well, yeah, I do. I say, well, why are you putting money into the 401k? Well, I want to have money for retirement and I want to, I get a match or it's doing pretty well in the stock market, whatever it may be. And I'll just ask them a simple question. When you put money into your 401k, now this is assuming somebody in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, not somebody who's in their 60s, right? So, because the timing is everything with this. Let's say you're in your 30s and you say, I want to be financially free, and you're putting money in 401k. I'll just ask a simple question. When you put money into that vehicle, does it create a passive income for you today? The answer is no,
No.
right? Well, then does it reduce a monthly expense? The answer is no. So if it doesn't increase a passive income or decrease a monthly expense, then I am literally putting money that could be used for those two purposes into something that now I can't touch until I'm 59 and a half without penalty. So then I'll just follow up. Is it then by putting money there, is it getting you closer to or further from financial freedom? And they just have to look at me and say, I guess it's getting me further from. But they're like, but I thought this was a good thing. Well, it is a good thing. If your goal is retirement in your 60s and 70s, and you have no desire to be financially free today, then the vehicle fits the outcome. But if your goal is financial freedom in the next 3 years, you're literally putting your money in a literal prison and handing the keys to the warden and saying, "Don't let me get access to it."
Right.
That is not helping to support your mission. And so people start to find things like that. There's numerous, we call them money traps. There's numerous money traps. When you put money there, they're keeping you farther from financial freedom. And when people redirect some of those contributions or other things, all of a sudden, instead of the question of, man, I don't know if I have enough money to get to financial freedom, all of a sudden they found money that they didn't realize could be used towards this process. And all of a sudden it starts to click, it starts to make sense. And now they're like, okay, it's on, I'm ready to go.
So, because I'm going to say, because what you're saying is different than the conventional talk of saving for retirement and so forth. Um, there's a lot to this, and there's a lot to unwind. And this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. Um, when you're talking with somebody and trying to help them understand this and see things the way that you do, kind of what's that process look like, and what are some of the mistakes that you're seeing people make when they try to come into this program?
Mm. I want to make sure that I address the question specifically. So if I ask a further question, forgive me. Are you saying what do they have the hardest time believing, or what do they have the hardest time like giving up or anything like that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, there's kind of two parts there. Again, because like I said, this isn't the mainstream what people have been preaching to them for how many ever years. Um, so there's obviously there's those mental barriers there to get them to think differently.
Sure.
So that's one thing of how do you help them think differently, from that side of things. And then the ones that have started to get into the process, what are some of the mistakes that you see that they're making that is, I'm going to say, slowing down or hindering their progress?
Yeah. So number one, I would say the hardest thing for people as they enter the process is we can't make them want something that they don't want, right? We only are, it's in our mission of what we do. We help people who want to be financially free get there faster. If you don't want it, then what you're doing with money is up to you. It's 100% needs to align with whatever you're actually trying to accomplish. But for those who want financial freedom today, and they don't really want retirement. Like retirement to me, Gary, and I'll just get on the soapbox for a second here, is it means to be taken out of service. And I don't believe, Gary, that I'm ever meant to be taken out of service. I want to be giving and working in my zone of genius or working in my God given talents and stewardship of those for my whole life. Now, but what frees me up to do that? When my time is my own, I can do that. When it is required of me to be somewhere else doing something else, I'm at least limited in what that is that I can do, if not completely off, taken out of the game. So, but to answer your question, we help people who want to get there. So the mindset has to be theirs. Our job is to expose people to the fact that there is an alternative way than just the default go to school, go to work, keep your head down for 40 years and look up in your 60s and hope that you have your health and this pile of cash to live off of. Hope is not a strategy. I think somebody named Gary Heldt told me that. Um, but that's our mantra. You don't have to agree with it. But if you do agree with it, we then put you into the process to help you identify where are the leaks, where are the traps, and how can I then optimize my system to do this almost on an automated basis where I'm constantly funding the wealth side of my life and not just stuck in the rat race. Because that's what most people do, right? They get stuck in the rat race And they look up and they're like, man, if I keep doing this for 20 more years, what's going to happen? Like,
Right.
is this actually going to get me to the goal that I was thinking? The answer is no. So, the main thing that I feel like the biggest mistake people make is once they get a system like this set up, they go back to their old ways and they don't take the action to actually become an investor, which is why we built the whole system because we had the system and people were implementing this system and creating cash and availability to do investing, but they didn't know what to do with it,
Mhm.
right? They're like, okay, I've got money. Now what do I do? And so we had to, I mean, again, our whole job is to give you the shortcuts that we bumped our heads the whole way to get here, right? And part of that is we built out this 12-week course that help people figure out and build their own buy box to know what questions that they need to ask sponsors and operators of deals to look for the red flags and PPMs and PowerPoints and pitch decks that they get for an investment and be able to then have confidence to invest in the right things at the right time. If people don't take that step, they may have more cash, but not really have freedom. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, we could keep going for a while on this because there's a lot of good stuff here, and this is a lot to really unpack because of the fact that it is not mainstream, and you're definitely changing the way that you're currently thinking. Um, what have I not asked you that you wish I had?
Mm. You know what? I think the thing that I would want to share that you didn't ask me about is that I'll just dive a little deeper into something we kind of touched on, and that is when you have your investor DNA, that's your profile, right? As an investor, there are certain things about your personality that align better with certain investments and worse with certain investments. Okay. So, for instance, if you're a high driver type, right, you're going to want to invest in things where you can have some oversight, maybe some influence in. You want to be able to go faster, not slower. So, like a high driver type, they're not really that interested in a long-term rental. Like a single family home that's a long-term rental, it's just boring, right? It's just cash flow comes in every month and someone else manages it and they're just sitting there like, well, what good is this? This is no fun. It's just kind of slow and methodical. Now you give that same investment to somebody who's a high conscientious, detail oriented, risk averse personality, maybe more introverted, if you will, and they love it. Why? Because it aligns with them. They don't want the insecurity or the ups and downs or like they don't want to be hands on and involved. They just want to kind of set it and forget it.
Right.
Those two things, the same investment fits somebody totally different in terms of their personality. And I'll just say, man, if you don't know that, that's something that you can take action on. Like you can actually get a copy of your profile and use that to then say, what should I be considering? And we've got a whole process that we put people through. It's like 16 different passive income sources. What are the pros? What are the cons for each personality type? And so that they can kind of filter down and say, oh, maybe I should focus on these two, like laundromats and online websites or land flipping and Turo cars or whatever. Like you'll figure it out as you do it, but there's so much power in that and I don't think people talk about that enough. They just focus on, hey, this is what I did, so this is what you should do. And
Right.
I would say that's not the case at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, and we talk about that a lot on this show. That what Bob next door did doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you should do because totally different situation. Like you said, you have that investment DNA. his investment DNA may be different than yours, so you really have to keep an eye on that.
Well, and how many times, Gary, do you have people they just want to invest in something because of the tax benefits?
A lot.
And that
100%.
doesn't always work out,
Right.
right?
Right.
So there's much more of a comprehensive look at how you invest that I just want to expose people to.
Right. So, Joey, people like what they hear. They want to learn more about you. They want to learn more about your program. How can they go about doing that?
Well, for your show specifically, we just set up a page where you can contact us. You get free resources and any sort of details that you want. If you go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/grow your business, so wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/grow your business, you can get access to all that. And I always love it whenever you message me from there and just say, hey, I heard you and Gary talking on the podcast and really got a lot out of it. I love to hear from everybody as they connect with us.
Great. Really appreciate your time today, Joey. I think that you have definitely brought something new to our listeners to help them, again, go back and take a step back and think about this.
Well, Gary, thanks for having me. I know I can be a little edgy, but hopefully it resonates with the right people. We're going to be polarizing in some cases, but hopefully help people get down the path that they want to go.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, this week my guest was Joey Muré, and he is the co-founder and partner of Wealth Without Wall Street, and I'll see you guys next week.